All right, guys. So, got an article here and a topic that's pretty interesting. And you might, if you're in the Linux space, you've probably already heard of this. But so, University of Minnesota has sort of just as a whole been banned from the Linux community. If you don't know why, well, they were supposedly, which that's a big supposedly, doing security testing is what they're saying they were doing. Vulnerability testing in the Linux kernel. So essentially, people from the school, students, and just whoever from the school, anyone with the email ending in the University of Minnesota, which I can't remember what it is, but it's their .edu, whatever their email address, all everybody from or everybody with that address has been banned from submitting patches to the Linux kernel, and for good reason. This school was supposedly let's go down in here. Where does it say it? So here it is. So it was a project that they were doing that aims to automatically identify bugs introduced by other patches in the Linux kernel, which is essentially automatically identifying bugs that they were introducing into the kernel. So they were submitting these bug patches that would fix one thing and then create a huge vulnerability in the process. And after they were caught and subsequently banned, they're like, oh, no, it's all part of a paper, a study, whatever. To be honest, now, when we're talking about this, I'm not one of those people who is all for like canceling people. Like, you mess up once, you can't ever redeem yourself. This one, I'm not saying we should cancel the school, but the school should also, I don't give two flying craps. I'll put the link to this article down below so you can read their apology letter, but I've read it and I could give two craps about it. Their apology letter is crappy. Like this first line here is about the most genuine thing. So like, we sincerely apologize for any harm or our research group did to the Linux kernel community. That's great. Then they go on to just talk about why they were doing it and justifying it, which when you make an apology, you don't justify what you did. Just gonna let you know that. When you start justifying your actions after you apologize, you essentially undo the apology. The apology is supposed to be you saying, I know I messed up and it won't ever happen again. And I mean, I understand that they will most likely never do it again. But here we go. So while this issue has been painful for us as well, we are genuinely sorry for the extra work that the Linux kernel community has undertaken. We have learned some important lessons about research with the open source community from this incident. We can and will do better, and we believe we have much to contribute in the future and will work hard to regain your trust. That's the thing right there. You most likely will not, this school should completely understand, staff and anybody who is in the administration of the school should understand it. It would be so unbelievably kind of anyone in the Linux community to even allow you to look at code and talk about it and anyone listen to you. Like, not only are you a school that is supposed to be teaching these white hat security, practices, but you're also a school. Like, you're a school. So for you to not only mess up this, like, you don't even understand the basics of security testing. Like, number one is you get permission, because otherwise what you're doing would be like if you walked into any building and didn't tell anyone there, like, hey, I want to test your, security. I want to see if I can find vulnerabilities. And like, you have to go and talk with them and get the scope of what they want you to do. Like, what they did here would essentially be the same as me going in and like to a Starbucks, sniffing packets, finding everyone's personal, like, hell, if I'm really good at it, finding everyone's personal information that was in that coffee shop, and then going to the owner and being like, hey, so, I just did something really illegal, but I did it for the security. Like, no, that's not how security testing works. And for a school of all places to be doing this, like, no. To be honest, this is one of those topics where I don't think anyone can be on the defense when it comes to school. They extremely messed up, and now people who, like, the Linux community is not paid. Majority, almost everyone who works on the Linux kernel, on Linux in general, is doing it out of their free time. And this school, their project, has created an immense amount of work for people who aren't getting paid for it, who just do it out of their free time. So it's not like I'm saying the canceling of the school needs to continue, but it's actually ludicrous of the school to even think that we should consider allowing them to continue to submit anything to the Linux kernel. Like, you can't, the problem with what they're doing is you're taking an already, Linux is just a community that is much undervalued. It's very undervalued for what it is. I mean, for Linux to be as fantastic as it is, with almost no financial backing behind it. Yeah, the Linux Foundation gets money, Canonical makes money, but Linux as a whole, the Linux kernel, is not some money-making thing. Almost everybody who's working on it is unpaid, or if they are being paid, they should be paid way more than they're getting paid. So for you to come into a community that is legitimately all about giving your free time and your hard work for free to better the entire community, it's insane that a school where people are most likely financially, like, okay, and getting money to do these types of projects and studies and stuff, I don't know, just this whole ordeal sort of highlights the fact that, yes, we do need to be a lot more careful and look out for who's submitting patches and stuff like that to the Linux kernel. But really, in all honesty, what it really highlights is this school's ineptitude, arrogance, and inability to teach. So, like, really, the question is not, should we ever let them submit patches again? Because, I mean, the really blatant thing about it is, if we let them start doing patches again, it sets a precedent for other schools, or it just sets a precedent for in the future. Like, you can do some really nasty study, a really nasty thing to the Linux kernel, and the community is so accepting that you'll just be allowed to continue doing it. So I think the school should be banned from submitting anything to the Linux kernel indefinitely or permanently. I just do. It's not because I think we should cancel them, but at least that way they cannot in any way continue to do the studies the same way that they were doing. That's really it. At least make it way more difficult for them to actually, as a whole, try and just easily submit patches and stuff. So I don't think they should be necessarily canceled for it, but also at the same time, they can't be submitting patches. No, this is a major screw up. Major. Now, I want to go back to talking about the school and it. If you are someone who, I'm not saying if you're going to the school you need to leave. That's nuts. I mean, if you're not satisfied with the education you're getting there, yes, definitely leave. But for someone who, if you're considering a school and you were or are currently looking at University of Minnesota, I would go probably somewhere else. I'm not saying as a whole the school is bad or they have bad courses or teachers. I'm not saying that. Really, in all honesty, what I'm saying is, if you are considering schools, you got to think about it like this. A school, when they're thinking of getting you in, they are only looking for the best of the best. And if you make it in there, that means that school considered you the best of the best of everyone that applied. So for you, when you're looking at a school, you should definitely be looking for the best of the best. And this incident right here goes to show that this, at least when it comes to security, vulnerability testing, all of that, they are way out of their depth. They have no idea I mean, it is the most fun. I'm not even big into security testing, vulnerability testing. I found it to be interesting, but the most basic of basic things that you're taught is you have to get permission before. Otherwise, you are doing something malicious and most likely illegal. So I wouldn't pick this school to be my school, because if this incident was treated like any other test, their GPA would have dropped 2.5 points, 3 points off of this, because this was a major test and they failed so hard. It is unbelievable. So I don't think this school deserves anyone's not necessarily attention, but desire. If you really want to get into a specific school, I don't think this one is the one for you to go in, especially if you're someone who's interested in Linux and computers as a whole. This just highlights horrible practices and ineptitude. And so I don't think this school necessarily can come back from this. And the reason I say that is because I don't think that this is a topic that they should ever touch again. I think they should just learn their lesson and never approach the Linux kernel again as a school. I'm not saying anyone there can't, in their free time and having a passion for Linux, submit kernels on their own. I just think it sets a horrible precedent to allow them to continue to submit patches after something like this. This is a ridiculous infringe. I mean, it's just like what they were doing was it's distasteful at best and very, very malicious at worst. So I don't know. If you've got a difference of opinion and you think, yeah, we definitely should let them back on and continue to submit patches for whatever reason, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I'm interested to hear. But I don't really think this makes too much sense when it comes to how they were going about it. Even if this was a study or anything like that, this would essentially be the same as human trials on a drug that we haven't even maybe tested twice on rats. This is not how you do stuff. This is not how a school should be ran. and representing itself. All around this incident, and I love how they refer to it as an incident. This current incident has caused a great deal of anger in the Linux community towards us, the research group, and the University of Minnesota. We apologize unconditionally for what we now recognize as a breach of the shared trust in the open source community and seek forgiveness for our missteps. Here's the thing. I'll forgive you for being stupid. That's fine. But the problem is, in even reading this, it's so not a real apology. Like, what we now realize was a breach of the shared trust. You can't. You knew from the beginning that this was not just a breach of trust. This was a breach of how you should test vulnerabilities. This is how, from the get-go, you had to recognize that you were doing something malicious from the beginning. Simple. If you introduce vulnerabilities, even if you fix them later, if you knowingly submit vulnerabilities at all, without permission, without telling someone, hey, we're going to do a study to see, you can't do this thing. Like, this is not okay. And I mean, I'll forgive you, but that does not mean at all that you're going to rebuild the relationship with the Linux Foundation, which, who gives a two shits about the Linux Foundation? Come on. The whole Linux community as a whole, almost no one gives two shits about the FSF. So who cares? But anyway, why, and whatever. This I don't really see at all happening. You're not going to rebuild the relationship. Essentially what you've done is you've done something that's so heinous that we essentially have to get a divorce now. If you treat this school's relationship with the Linux community like a marriage, they just slept with another hoe, and now we're getting a divorce, and that's flat out how it should be. Now, I don't think the school should be canceled for forever. I mean, Linux is open source. They can still do stuff with it. They can still test it. They can still do whatever they want, but they're not going to do it as submitting patches to the kernel. You're not going to offer help as a school with financial backing and, the ability to have definitely more time to devote to fixing something, and then knowingly put vulnerabilities in it and cause more work for the people who aren't like you. That's not fair. Again, if you treated it like a marriage, the relationship between school and Linux as a marriage, we need to get a divorce now. That's just how it is. So, yeah, if you disagree with me, if you got different opinions, let me know down in the comments. I'm interested to know. Also, if you like this video or you dislike it, hit both the buttons. And then, since I know that if you're seeing a like button, you're on YouTube, go down in the comments below, check out Odyssey. I've got my link down there. You can go check out the platform. It's awesome. It's way better than YouTube. And you actually get rewarded for using the platform, and you can give it to your favorite creators. And I don't know about everybody else, but at least for me, I very much appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and load up the screen now so I can shout out these great people. Ak, Yen Braskibus, I'm screwing up names left and right, doesn't matter. Blender Dumbass, Mikey J 2009, EasyIO 400, Awesome Benjamin, LinuxCast, Grubbin, Kryptone, and EBO Hoodie. Thank all of you guys, and I know I butchered some names in there. If I butchered your name and you want to let me know how to pronounce it, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, if you got a weird username, I very well could butcher it. I just can. Now, I will go ahead and say this is the first time that I'm doing this without actually going through on Odyssey and making sure there isn't any new people on here. So if your name isn't up here, it will be in the next video. So thank you guys for all your support. It's very much appreciated. Also, if you want to be the first, you can check me out over on LibrePay. I'll put your name up there. You'll be the first. So yeah, if you want to support me, there's a couple ways that you can do it. And then also just thank you for watching the videos. That's support enough. So thank you, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.